Good morning, Mr. Joe. I am wild about science this morning. I hope you are. And we're here today at this little park to see if we can start an experiment on the things that plants need in order to survive. But first, Mr. Joe, what is that you've been drawing over there?
Hi, Mr. Randy. Today I'm wild about science, and you are asking me and telling me about a plant's life. What plants need to grow, to prosper. And so I tried to put down some things that they need. And you told me they need sunshine, so I drew the sun here. You also told me they need water, so I put a watering can here. They need air, they need nutrients. And you can see I drew some roots down here with nutrients on them. And they need a reasonable temperature. And I said, boy, it's a nice day in Florida, 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And they need to reproduce. So I drew a bee that pollinates, and I also had a seed fall, and you can see a little sprout coming up. So this is the future flower. So I was really happy with my drawing. I bet the kids could do one just like it.
Mr. Joe, you are fantastic. That is a great drawing.
Thank you, Mr. Randy.
I was thinking that we would start an experiment.
I think we can do experiments that talk to some of these elements.
Okay, so how are we going to do that, Mr. Joe?
Well, I think first of all, in an experiment, you need a control, one that has more normal conditions, and one that we change one element. So I think maybe if we got some plants and we kept them pretty normal, everything's the same, all these are the same, except we take out one element. Try and loosen up the soil, Mr. Randy.
All right, well, we found a plant that I think will work really well. Here's these little guys, which I'm gonna point to. This guy right here, they have little broad leaves. There's lots of them around here. And so we're gonna use them for our experiment. There's lots and lots of them. They get to be really big. Thank you, Mr. Joe. Let's see it's important, kids, to get a good root system. Mr. Joe has done a great job here. We're just gonna get little baby plants, and they get 5 or 6 or 7 feet tall. So these are really young plants. There we go. Thank you. That's 2. And Mr. Joe, I hate to say this, but we need a lot of them. Let's start off with 4. Let's start off with 6. 3 and 3. Kids, when we do an experiment, we have to have a control group and an experimental group. And so I thought we would have 3 in the control group, 3 plants that Mr. Joe's digging up in the control group, and 3 in the experimental group. All right? And every time we do an experiment, we need 6 more. Thank you, Mr. Joe. You are just doing great. So Mr. Joe, you did a great job digging. We have, look, you've got 6 of these little plants, and they've got great root systems. So what do we do next, Mr. Joe?
I think what we're going to do is put them in a container.
Oh, so what kind of container do you have there?
I have, it looks like what I get my eggs in, an egg carton.
Right, okay. So like half of if you get 12 eggs in an egg carton, you just cut it in half.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to use those because why do we need those little cups?
Well, each one is going to be an individual, so we're going to put 3 in each.
Right.
And we're going to put water in them because we don't want to deny them water.
So one of those sections, like that one right there, will be the experimental section.
Right.
And this one over here will be the control section.
Correct.
Tell the kids what a control section is.
The control section is so we can see the difference, okay? We try to normalize it. So nothing changed with this one other than, well, nothing changed in it.
So they're going to get sunlight.
So they're going to get sunlight.
And water and air and
everything.
And the right temperature and all the other things that we said were important. The control group gets everything that we think a plant needs in order to survive. But the experimental group, what changes?
Well, we take away one element.
And so we're going to call that the experimental group.
Yep.
And we're going to put 3 plants in each group.
Yep.
right? And so kids, when you have 3 plants in a group, the experimental group, you're going to call them trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. We're doing them all at the same time. You could do them one after the other, after the other, after the other, and that's why you'd call it trial 1, trial 2, and trial 3. So these 3 plants are our trials in our experiments, and every experiment ought to have at least 3 trials, and in some cases you can have a whole bunch of trials, but we're just going to do 3 for this one. All right, kids, now we're ready to get started with our experiment. But what are we going to do in this experiment? Let's remember, Mr. Joe's beautiful artwork here shows all the things that we think that plants need in order to maintain their growth and have a good life. They need soil, they need proper temperature, they need the sunlight, they need water, they need air. Today we're going to talk about the temperature. Today's temperature is 82 degrees Fahrenheit. It's very warm. It's great for growing plants. But what if we put our plants in the freezer, in the kitchen? Sometimes when it gets really, really cold, your parents go out and maybe if you've got plants outside that they care about a lot, they cover the plants to protect them from the cold. That's because your parents believe, and I believe, that really cold weather will kill plants. So in our experiment, we've got 4 little plants here that we're going to call the experimental group, and 4 little plants here that we're going to call the control group. Remember that a control group is the group that you don't do anything to it. It just leaves it like it would be normally. So we're going to leave it, and we're not going to put it in the freezer at all. It's going to stay in normal temperature, get plenty of sunlight, get water, get air. Now the one in the freezer, if it needs it, we will put more water in. We will give it as much. It won't get a lot of light in the freezer. I know that, but I don't know how to solve that problem yet. But right now we know it's going to be very, very cold in the freezer. So we'll see what it looks like after about a week in the freezer, all right? And when you get finished with this, remember to write it down in your notebooks what you saw, whether it changed colors or whether they died, or whether they grew, We'll just see in about a week, okay, kids? So here we are checking on the plants that were in the experiment where we changed the cold, and here they are. Well, they don't look any different at all. You can tell that the water's frozen solid. They've been in here for a week now, and no difference, it looks like. I wonder what could be going on. When you put vegetables in a refrigerator or a freezer, they stay green for a long time. I wonder if I pull these out and let them thaw, I wonder what would happen to them. I guess that's the next part of the experiment. They look good right now, but I thought temperature would make a big difference.